Hello, and welcome back to the Spiritual Sanctuary. This is Bertina, your host, your priestess, your yoga teacher, and spiritual guide. I am happy to welcome you all back to day 3 of our special series, International Week of Yoga, Movement, Meditation, Spirit, and the Divine Feminine. In day 1, episode, I think 111, we explored the deeper meaning of yoga. We talked about yoga as a union, connection, and a sacred embodiment, and a practice of returning home to yourself. In day 2, I think episode 112, we took a gentle journey through the history of yoga. We looked at the Vedas and Upanishads, the Gita, and the Sutras, and we talked about the importance of honoring yoga's origins with respect and humility. But today, we are going to explore one of the most well-known teachings in yogic history, the 8 limbs of yoga. Now, they come from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and they offer a guide for spiritual living. They're one of my favorites because they show that yoga is not only something we do on a mat, it's a way of living and breathing and relating and moving around the world with awareness. Now, in many modern yoga spaces, we often focus on the spiritual pose or the physical poses, and that can be beautiful. It can help strengthen us and stretch us out and relieve tension, but we forget about the spiritual aspect. And in the traditional 8 limb path, physical postures known as asanas is only one limb, only one part. And that means that yoga is much more than movement. Yoga is how we treat other people. It's how we care for ourselves and how we breathe, how we focus the mind. It's how we connect with the divine. It's how we live every day. And the 8 limbs remind us that yoga is not something we only do, but is what we live. So I want to walk you through the 8 limbs in a simple, practical, and really heart-centered way. I know all this can be overwhelming, and I found something on Amazon that I thought was really cool. There's, of course, the yamas and niyamas, which are the 8 limbs, but there was an 8 limb workbook, and I also think I found a coloring book. So those should be in soon. And I feel like that those are a great way to practice these each day. But anyway, I digress. Let's go back to limb 1. The first limb is yama, and it's ethical restraints. And it's how we live in relationship with others and the world around us. And you're going to notice that how we treat others come before we treat ourselves. It's how we're acting and how we're treating the earth and how we're using the energy. And the yamas have 5 smaller teachings. Ahisma, which is non-harming. Satya, which is truthfulness. Asteya, which is non-stealing. Brahmacharya, moderation, or a wise use of energy. And aparigraya, I'm always pronouncing that word. I'm so sorry. Aparigraya is non-possessiveness. So let's look at these practically. Ahisma, the first lesson, is non-harming, teaching compassion, not only towards others, but towards ourselves. This means no harsh thoughts or judgments or comparison or self-criticism. Sometimes the most powerful yoga practice is choosing not to speak to yourself in a cruel way. Ahisma is non-harming, not harming anyone or anything, the earth, the animals, the other people around you. It's being compassionate. And it's probably the one that I remember and I try to live the most. Satya is truthfulness. That's living in alignment with truth. It invites honesty and authenticity and integrity. Are you being truthful with yourself? Are you honoring how you feel? Are you speaking from clarity and kindness? Asteya is non-stealing. It's not about It is partially about taking physical things, but it's also not stealing time or energy or credit or people's peace or attention, honoring boundaries and living with respect. Whenever I think about this is if someone's really happy about something, let them be happy. You don't have to point out all the negatives. And this is a hard one because sometimes when we want to fix other people because the way we see that they're doing isn't the way we would do it, we tend to want to fix and step in, and that causes more harm, ahisma. It causes us it causes more harm and is not connected with ahisma or astaya. Brahmacharya is translated in a lot of different ways. Um, it's the modern interpretation is the one that I tend to go by, and it's using your energy in a wise way. Where's your energy going? Are you giving too much away? Are you scattered? Are you using your energy in ways that support your soul? And aparagaya is non-possessiveness. Where do we cling and control? Where do we hold on too tightly? Where does peace come when we loosen our grip? What is it we need to let go of? Outcomes, control. And the yamas remind us that yoga is relational. We can't separate our spiritual practice from how we treat others and how we move through life. Now, the niyamas are personal observations, and this is really focused on ourselves because with the yamas, it's how we live in relationship with others. Niyamas are how we care for ourselves spiritually. The five are saucha, cleanliness or purification, santosha, contentment, tapas, discipline or inner fire, svadhyaya, self-study, and ishvara pranadaya, surrender to the divine. So with saucha, it can mean physical cleanliness, but it also points to energetic, mental, and spiritual cleanliness. What are we taking into our minds? What environments are we sitting in? What thoughts are we feeding? What needs to be cleared? What needs to be cleared out so we can be more present? Santosha means contentment. This doesn't mean we stop growing or we ignore pain. It means that we practice finding peace in the present moment. It's the practice of saying, I can be here now. I can breathe here now. I can find gratitude here now. Tapas is devotion and discipline and your inner fire. It's a sacred energy that helps us keep showing up, not from punishment, but from commitment. It's the fire that helps us practice and grow and change. Svadhyaya means self-study. To me, it's the most important part of spiritual practice. It asks us to observe ourselves. What patterns do we repeat? What stories do we believe? What is your soul trying to teach you? It's journaling and studying text and meditation and therapy and spiritual reflection and honest self-inquiry. It's not perfection. Ishvaya pranadhana means surrender to the divine. It reminds us that we do not have to control everything. We practice. That's it. We show up. We do our part, and then we surrender what isn't ours not to carry. The niyamas remind us that yoga is also the inner path. It's how we care for our own spirit. Now, the third limb is asanas, and this is the limb that most people recognize because asana refers to posture or the physical practice of yoga. In many modern yoga classes, asana is the main focus and sometimes the only focus. We move through poses and stretch the body and build strength and all that. And sometimes, as we should, we connect movement with breath. But traditionally, asanas was connected to preparing the body for meditation. The body needed to be steady enough, comfortable enough, and open enough to sit in meditation, not just for 5 minutes, an hour, sometimes for days. So posture was not about performance. It was not about looking impressive. It was not about twisting into whatever you wanted to. Asana was about creating steadiness and presence and readiness. And this is really important because your yoga pose does not have to look like anyone else's. Your body does not have to fit into a perfect shape, and your practice does not have to be intense to be meaningful. Asanas can be gentle and seated and practiced in a chair, done in bed, can be slow, soft, accessible. It can be one stretch or 3 deep breaths. The purpose is practice, not perfection or performance. It's being present. And when we practice asanas with awareness, the body becomes a doorway into this present moment. Limb 4 is pranayama or breath work. But it's more than just breathing. The word prana refers to life force energy. It's the vital energy that moves through us, and breath is one way we connect with that life force. As I've said before, if you practice Reiki, Ki, prana, Tai Chi, Chi, it's all the life force. And it is teaching you to work consciously with that energy. It connects the mind and the body. And when we're anxious, overwhelmed, or tense, the breath stops or becomes shallow. And when we slow the breath, deepen the breath, or just even become aware of the breath, the nervous system begins to soften. So breath can bring us back to the present moment. It is a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. So a simple pranayama practice might be taking a slow inhale through your nose and a long exhale through your mouth. Or breathing in for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold and exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Or simply just putting a hand on your heart and on your belly and notice the breath. Breath is sacred, and every breath is a reminder that my life is moving through us. Limb 5 is pratyahara. It is described as withdrawal of the senses, but it's kind of like turning inward. It doesn't mean rejecting the world. It's learning how to step away from constant outer distraction so we can hear the wisdom within. Okay. We live in a world full of phones and social media and noises, expectations, opinions, other people's energy. And Pratyahara invites us to pause this outer noise and listen inward. It can happen in meditation or yoga nidra. It can happen when you just turn off the phone or close your eyes or get a cup of tea and sit quietly somewhere. It's the practice of reclaiming your attention. It teaches us that not everything outside of us needs access to our inner world. And when you're on the divine feminine path, Pratyahara is deeply connected to intuition. When we turn inward, we begin to hear the quiet voice between the noise. And we have to create space to listen. Now, limb 6 is dharana or concentration or focused attention. And as we begin to turn inward, we learn to focus the mind. And this isn't always easy. The mind wanders, thoughts arise, plans, worries, memories, distractions come in. And that doesn't mean that you're bad at meditating. That just means that you're human. You have a monkey mind. And dharana is the practice of gently bringing the mind back again and again. You might focus on the breath or even a candle flame, a mantra, a goddess name, a sacred image, a prayer, or a word such as peace or love. And the practice is not about never getting distracted, it's about returning. One of the most compassionate teachings of yoga is that every time the mind wanders and you return, you are practicing. You're training attention. You're not failing. So Dharana helps us become less scattered. It helps us gather our energy and helps us become more present. Limb 7 is dhyana or meditation. It's deep meditative awareness, a state of inner stillness. If dharana is concentration, dhyana is what begins to unfold when the concentration becomes more continuous. It's a difference between repeatedly bringing the mind back and then becoming fully aware. Meditation doesn't mean that your mind is blank. That's one of the worst things. I hear people all the time going, well, I can never still my mind. Well, you're not supposed to have the absence of thought. It's a cultivation of awareness. It's to learn to witness and sit and breathe and observe and stillness and movement. It's everything. And dhyana is the limb that invites us into deeper communion with the inner self and the divine. It's sacred listening. It's a space where we remember that we're more than just our thoughts. And the eighth limb is samadhi. It's designed as union or bliss, nirvana. It's the deepest state of yoga. This is the experience of union beyond the separate self. It's the sense of being connected with the divine, with all of life, with truth, with peace, and with pure awareness. For most of us, this may not be something we experience in a dramatic or even permanent way, but we have glimpses of it. A moment of deep peace, a moment in nature where everything feels connected, a moment in meditation, maybe when your mind is quiet, a moment of prayer where you feel held, a moment of love where separation dissolves. Samadhi reminds us of the ultimate goal of yoga: union, connection, wholeness, and sacred presence. Now, traditionally, we speak of the eight limbs of yoga, but I'd like to talk about a modern spiritual ninth limb, which we can call living yoga or embodiment or integration. This is not one of Patanjali's traditional eight limbs, but it's a helpful way to ask, how do I take yoga off the mat? How do I live these teachings in my daily life? How do I practice compassion when I'm frustrated? And how do I practice truthfulness when it's uncomfortable? How do I practice devotion while washing dishes, caring for the family, working, grieving, creating, resting, or serving? This is where yoga becomes embodied. It becomes how we live. It's not the time that we spend in practice, not only the time we spend in practice, but it's how we return to ourselves throughout the day. It's how we listen to our intuition and how we honor the divine in the ordinary. That is living yoga. So today, your spiritual reflection is, and again, you can stop and journal. The eight limbs remind us that yoga is not something we only do, it is something we live. Prayer, journal, truth, kindness, breath, listening, relationship, choice, stopping. You don't have to master all the eight limbs. They're going to teach you how to live with more awareness and integrity and compassion. And you may go up the limbs and back down the limbs. It's just like with chakras. They're not always going to be perfect. So I want you to think about, which limb of yoga do you already practice? Which one do you feel more called to explore? Now, before we close, I invite you to choose one limb of yoga to practice intentionally today. Maybe you choose ahimsa, non-harming, and speak more gently to yourself. Maybe you choose satya, truthfulness and honor, really what you feel. Maybe do a gentle stretch for asana, 3 slow breaths for pranayama, gratitude for santosha, maybe an electronic detox for pratyahara. Meditate on a candle or a mantra or prayer for dharana. Go deeper with dhyana in meditation, or just surrender. Listen for the answer of which limb will you practice today. Then softly say, today I practice yoga with intention. Today I bring yoga into my life. Today I return to presence. Take one more breath in. And I want to thank you for joining me for day 3 of International Week of Yoga. Reminder that tonight, 7 o'clock Central Time on Zoom, I'm offering a free somatic yoga class through yourcosmicconnections.com or through my website, Bertina, BERTENA.org. And you can use the code Bertina, BERTENA, free yoga to get it for free. Somatic yoga is a way of moving and surrendering and meditating and breathing and honoring yourself. It is very much the idea of ahimsa, loving yourself, taking care of yourself. Now, tomorrow we're going to explore the passive yoga and the many doorways to the divine. We're going to talk about devotion and wisdom and service, meditation, mantras, kundalini, and sacred text. Until then, may you remember that yoga is not something you do, it is something you live. I wish you all the love in the world. Good night.